A new rumor claims that Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, and Leslye Headland are making the Force into a female entity. Before we get to this, I'd like to ask you please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at the Trent Report. Wrote this up over at thatparkplace.com. And this rumor comes from Scooper WDW Pro, who detailed this in a recent video upload. He said, according to a source that I have, Kathleen Kennedy and Leslye Headland are going to do something in the Acolyte that is going to essentially end what remaining fans they have. And that is, they are literally going to change the Force itself, into being literally female, gender female Force. Later in the video, he detailed this. The source who has relayed to me some stuff, they believe this will be so bad that there's nothing left to do except reboot Star Wars. They think Kathleen Kennedy cannot continue or Star Wars cannot. So I think this was also corroborated by film threat writer Alan Ng. He posted this on X. The third episode of The Acolyte will finally kill Star Wars for the vast majority of pre-Disney Star Wars fans. Based on Lucasfilm comments of late, they are okay with that. In an appearance on the Renegade Online show, Ng, who has watched the first 4 episodes of the show, also appeared to confirm Pro's rumor that the Force is female. He said this, the Force is female, the Force is legitimately female. He went on to state that what happens in the third episode fundamentally changes the future of Star Wars. Now, in terms of does it negate the originals and the prequels? Not necessarily. I think we're just going to be more upset with what we were presented and the knowledge that this is the direction that Disney Star Wars is going to go from now on. So he didn't obviously go into specifics other than claiming that the Force is legitimately female, given the fact that he is under an NDA. Nevertheless, he did kind of address the idea that the show is so terrible it will necessitate a reboot. He said this, I'm not that cynical about it. I'll say this, though. Watching that third episode, I immediately leapt back into the 10-year-old me who saw A New Hope for the first time, Star Wars for the first time, and I don't recognize this world anymore. I'll also say this, the line that we all quote, it's not about good and evil, but it's about who possesses the power. It makes a little more sense in context. So when you see when it happens or when it's said, you kind of understand why it was said and the context behind it. It's not as bad as we're making it out to be. When asked if the backlash will be worse than The Last Jedi, he said this, I think so for us pre-Disney Star Wars fans. I don't know how we could accept this as Star Wars and move forward with it. He elaborated, saying, in a blanket sense, this is worse than The Last Jedi. At the same time, though, millions of people watch The Last Jedi compared to this. Millions of people will not be watching this, referring to The Acolyte. They hadn't burned so many bridges at The Last Jedi versus now. Just to get people to watch this is going to be a feat. And I think people who are original fans and a little jaded will expect this. And my whole point is that third episode slams the door. It's the final nail in the coffin for OG pre-Disney Star Wars fans. So it looks like they are taking that slogan that they've always denied. Lucasfilm and all its fanatics have said, oh, the Force isn't really female. That was just a marketing op with Nike or whatever clothing brand it was. Looks like it is indeed the Force is female, and they're going to confirm it here in the Acolyte. And we might have already got confirmation of this. Amanda Stenberg, one of the actresses, she's the main actress in the show. She plays twins May and Osha. She told Empire about this earlier this year. She says, I understood that it was an exploration of the light and dark parts of ourselves and the rules in the galaxy around how the Force can be used, which was insane to experience that. So she is literally telling us that the show is about the rules in the galaxy around how the Force can be used. And it's probably safe to say that she will probably find out that the Force is female through this exploration through the show. She also was asked about how the light side and dark side dynamic works for her character May, with Empire's Ben Travis stating this, I'm getting she's more towards the dark side. And then Stenberg responded, I think it's a lot more complicated than that, which is the point of the show. Hopefully, if we did our job right, the show makes it an interesting interrogation into what it means to be on the light side or the dark side. So obviously concerning comments there. But now that we have this idea of this rumor, It also provides, I think, some color to what George Lucas said recently during an appearance at the Cannes Film Festival. He made it clear that the Walt Disney Company and current Lucasfilm leadership does not understand Star Wars nor the Force. This is what he said. I was the one who really knew what Star Wars was, who actually knew this world, because there's a lot to it. The Force, for example, nobody understood the Force. When they started other ones after I sold the company, a lot of the ideas that were in the original sort of got lost, but that's the way it is. You give it up, you give it up. So maybe George Lucas trying to tell fans that this is not what the Force is. What they're going to show in the Acolyte is not what I created the Force to be. It is not Star Wars. What they're going to show us in this Acolyte. He's trying to prime the pump there and warn us about this show. We also had Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy, as well as showrunner Leslye Headland, already rolling out the "you're a racist, you're a phobe, you're all this, you're not a Star Wars fan if you oppose woke ideology," in order to try and create a narrative around the show and the potential criticism and backlash it is going to get, and try and paint people who criticize the show for being absolutely terrible as these ists and phobes and all of this stuff. This is what Headland said to the New York Times. As a fan myself, I know how frustrating some Star Wars storytelling in the past has been. I felt it myself. She then clarified in a text message to the writer, Brooks Barnes. And she said, I stand by my empathy for Star Wars fans, but I want to be clear. Anyone who engages in bigotry, racism, or hate speech, I don't consider a fan. So there you go. This is the woman who was the personal assistant to Harvey Weinstein. Yet she somehow didn't know what he was engaging in. Personal assistant, scheduled his appointments, knew where he was at, didn't know apparently what he was doing. Don't believe that for a second. She's the one trying to lecture us on morality. No, she's literally just trying to save her show, which is going to get absolutely brutalized because it's going to be so absolutely terrible. So terrible that they made the Force female, according to this rumor. We also had Kennedy coming out. You're a misogynist. She said this to the New York Times. My belief is that storytelling does not need to be representative of all people. Or, excuse me, my belief is that storytelling does need to be representative of all people. That's an easy decision for me. Operating within these giant franchises now with social media and the level of expectation, it's terrifying. I think Leslye has struggled a little bit with it. I think a lot of the women who step into Star Wars struggle with this a bit more because of the fan base being so male dominated. They sometimes get attacked in ways that can be quite personal. I've done a video on this. It's Kathleen Kennedy who has launched the attacks. She's launching the attacks now against the Star Wars fan base. She literally tried to reshape the fan base. She made this very clear in 2015 by changing the stories that the company had been telling, or reshaping Star Wars to fit her image. Clearly, it has not worked. The fan base is clearly still very male dominated. She has not been able to reshape it into her image. She's very upset, frustrated. She is indeed a failure on all fronts. She has lost lots of money. She has failed to reshape the Star Wars fan base, and all she has done is try to spread woke ideology. And it's unclear if she has indeed done that through Star Wars. It looks like more and more that is not the case as people continue to abandon the franchise en masse and abandon the woke ideology that has been injected to it and is using it as a vehicle to try and corrupt their minds. So this is the latest rumor. Show is dead on arrival. Absolutely trash. Terrible. We already knew it was going to be awful, but I think this latest rumor seems to be the nail in the coffin. Looks like we won't get it till the third episode. Obviously, they have a 2-episode premiere that comes out later today. It's going to have to wait a week to see just how awful this is and maybe confirm whether or not this rumor is indeed true. But it looks like Alan Ng, who has seen it, he does seem to indicate the Force is female. The Force is legitimately female. He did say that on a Renegade Online YouTube stream. So there's no hope for this show. Absolutely no hope. Let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, but to always speak the truth.